How you doing? Well, we are definitely back here again. And it's definitely a hot day outside today in September. And if you can hear something like a roar in the background, that will be the air conditioner going, because I need to keep cool. Because I'm a cool dude, well, older dude, and I need to keep cool. So being cool is cool. Staying cool is being cool. So hopefully we have a cool video for you. I don't know where I get this shit from. It just comes, okay? Bear with me. It could get worse. Okay. Going to the sheet. I'm going for a sheet. No, I'm not. I don't need a sheet. Okay, somebody had asked me if I would do another video on twin flame telepathy during separation in regards to repairing the template between the two of them. Now, I didn't go back and take a look at the other video that I did. I know I've done one already on this, but we're going to give it another go here. I'm trying to make this one a little bit shorter. I think the last one was pretty long. One of the things that I've noticed about a lot of people who are having these connections, and this applies not only just to twin flames, obviously, it applies to any variation of the soul-to-soul connection by whatever label that you want to use here. And the one thing that seems to be manifesting as a common trait, and as a common trait in any kind of spiritual awakening, is the ability for telepathic communication with others. And to be quite candid with you, I honestly do believe that as the evolutionary process does continue down the road, that telepathic communication is going to become more and more common. And the reason I hope it does is because I don't know about everybody else out there, but have you noticed today it's getting really difficult to communicate with people with words and language? Because right now it seems like everybody's misinterpreting everybody. We're having miscommunications between people. Definitions of words are taking on all kinds of different twists and turns. You've got to be a Philadelphia lawyer nowadays to keep up with all of the changes in new words that they're coming up with. So telepathy will, at some point, a few generations down the road, I suspect will become the new mode of communication. In the meantime, it's now in its primitive infancy in the spiritual community through the process of evolution, and it's one of the latent abilities that are waking up or being activated in many people. Having said that, one of the ways that's going to be set into the collective consciousness, if I can put it that way, is through these intense soul-to-soul connections, twin flame soulmates, whatever you want to call them, as an initiation of the ability to activation in one or both individuals. Usually I found as a general rule, what's the word? I lost the word in my head. As a general rule, it seems to be a bit more active in females than it does in males, simply because there are more females who are more sensitive, more empathic, and men are a little slow in catching up to the waking up process, but we're getting there. And what I'm noticing is the telepathic communication between the two of them is probably, in my recommendation, and I will say this at this point in the video, if you are at the point in your connection where you have telepathic communication between the two of you, the very first thing that I would do is suggest this, is verify it between the two of you. Actually see if what you're picking up or he's picking up or she's picking up is verifiable by actually talking to the other person and see if you actually are communicating telepathically. That's an important point. The other thing is only one of you may be telepathically communicating with the other. And now this is initially at the beginning I'm talking about here. The more you enhance, the more you practice, the more you verify, the more you become aware of the ability and get it functioning even better than what it is initially in the beginning, the more it will be templated, if I can use that word, into your unified field of consciousness down the road, and also into other people around you. For example, many people in these connections have family, they have children. What they don't realize is any ability that develops or evolves within them can be passed on to their children and people in their soul group or their bloodline, whatever you want to call it. And this is what's taking place. Now, I want to move to the stage now that initially I wanted to get into here with twin flame telepathy during separation. What's happening now, as many of you know, a lot of us are learning how to understand and read and actually understand more clearly how the playbook of relationships is unfolding with a new model, a new manual, a new process, a new way of doing things. And for many of us, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. So what's happening is when there's an impasse or a blockage between two in these soul-to-soul connections, are going to go through what I call the separation. Now, the separation usually is just of the physicalness of the connection between the two of them, and it will become absent. So the only means left of communicating, and here it comes, the only means left of communicating is through the telepathic ability that you may have set up. Now, it's my personal opinion, and that's just mine, all right, that there will come a day down the road when everyone pretty much who has these connections will actually come together. What you won't see is you won't see a lot of these distant connections where it's with somebody from a different culture, a different race, a different environment, and halfway across the other side of the planet. You will see them become more localized. The reason they have more and more of the distance ones is for obvious reasons, because it was usually, as a rule, usually, not always, but usually, it was never intended for the two people to come together in the first place. This was part of the learning curve that's taking place in regards to these high-intensity connection. So when it comes to the telepathic template of what I'm talking about, here's where if one or both have reached a certain point, and usually it's only where one has, if they reach a certain point and the telepathic ability has developed, in separation, what happens is it means that one individual of the two has leaped ahead, more or less, in development, spiritual maturity, personality development, and also in the waking fine-tuning of the 12 chakra system, which in some cases within some of them can evolve to what I call a more unified field of energy completed around themselves, or in other words, they become a little bit more than what they were before, and a whole lot better as a personality, and the way they go. So what can happen at this particular point is if that telepathic communication is still there, which it should be, then that individual, or both individuals in some cases, can actually use that telepathic ability to template the other person. But I want to add in another component here, if I may. Most people, when they have these connections of high vibrational soul-to-soul connections by any label, always think of it as just you and him, or him and him, or her and her, or him and her, or whatever combination. And that's all they think about. But in reality, don't ever think that way anymore. Because every time one of these connections takes place under any variation or title or label, it's not just about the two of you. It's about everybody, every person in your family, your bloodline, your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your cousins, your people who have passed on or predeceased you. Because what's happening right now, and this is where I think I would suggest that more of us start looking beyond just the two people involved in the situation. And what you'll do is you'll develop something that I've had for a long time. It's called vision. You'll be able to look at it from the perspective of say, oh, wow, I get what Mel's saying, is this is not something I'm just doing for me and him, or him and her, whatever. We're doing it for a whole pile of people. Yes, when you take it in that context and you begin to see a little bit more, the possibilities switch from it's all about me and him to it's all about us. It's all about the many. So what happens is the benefit derived that you begin to see gives you extra motivation, because you begin to realize that even if it doesn't work in the telepathic connection of templating the other with what you have learned through telepathic connection, and I'll explain that in a minute to you, you're going to do it for so many other people around you, not just your twin flame or your soulmate or your soul-to-soul connection. You're going to do it for others. So now you're at the point, okay, so now you've started to realize that what I'm saying, there's a big picture going on here. So how do you actually do this? So how do you actually template the other one with what you learned and keep the connection going, or open it up to new possibility? And like I said, every connection like this, in my opinion, has a very good chance of coming together, and in a few generations down the road, most of them will. The circumstances will change a little bit, and there will be some things that you don't see anymore happening. And one of them is separation, and the other one is everyone just seeing it as a personal thing between two people. You'll begin to see it more as we grow more in spiritual awareness and more in spiritual maturity. This is coming, I can assure you, because I've seen it. Now, when you're doing the twin flame telepathy and you're communicating with the other, the key here is to remember, everyone makes that telepathic connection through a key or a signal. Now, what do I mean by that? Go back in your memory to when the ability of telepathic communication first awoke within you, and perhaps in the other person at the same time. There were some experiences or some, what I'm going to call signal indications within your psyche, your chakra system, your mental or your emotional body that you felt take place prior to, if you will, the actual ability coming into fruition. Go back and play it again in your mind, but this time once you have it clicked into your mind, drag it down into your heart center chakra and make the telepathic connection, the telepathic connection, and see it manifesting as an energetic projection. Just this. See you and the other person in the heart center chakra, and then just see it as an energetic projection from you to the other person through the heart center chakra. Now, you've all heard that expression before. Oh, well, if you're connected with your twin flame, your soulmate, whatever, blah, 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 all that fantasy stuff, you're connected at the heart center. Yes, that's true, that part. But the part that we're learning now is how to use that ability through proper channels. That's what we're doing. And the only way that you can template someone else telepathically is to get into the telepathic mode or vibration that you have created. Now, everybody, there's not a standard, one size fits all here. Everybody awakened or quickened their telepathic ability in some kind of an experience or some kind of precursor that initiated them into the telepathic communication. You may have to do a little bit of internal research here for a few minutes, but you'll find it. And when you do reinitiate or reignite, if that's the right word, that particular experience by remembering it, and then you'll ignite the telepathic ability, take it down to the heart center chakra, and see the energetic connection, like a flow of energy going between you and the other person. Don't add in any words or any pictures, just an energetic connection flowing, but you've made the telepathic communication. Now, the reason behind this is that one of the biggest mistakes, and I've repeated this many, many times in my video, that people make is they think they can do a healing or they can assist their twin flame or their soulmate, their divine connection, by literally interfering or doing a healing on them or cutting cords or doing all kinds of silly things that people keep telling them that they can do who are uninformed and have lack of proper information, and it makes the situation even worse. So in this particular situation here is you have to realize here that if you want an opportunity for the other to have that opportunity, that's all you need to do is to reestablish through telepathic connection the ability energetically of sending him or her the information that you have acquired, learned, and grown in a positive, creative, spiritual, mature attitude and personality as an energy beam or an energetic connection. I'm going to label this nonverbal communication, all right? I know many people go into meditations and they actually get up in their head and they talk to their twin flame or their soulmate or their divine connection, whatever label you want to call it. Don't do that. That doesn't work, all right? In most cases, all you're doing is you're adding in your emotional self and you're adding in your emotional attachment, and with it are going to go a whole pile of conditions. You cannot do that through the heart center chakra using telepathic ability. It won't work. Okay? Many of you have found that out the hard way. As long as you remain emotionally attached to that other person, and you're down here in the solar plexus chakra, you cannot make a telepathic communication with them. You have to get up into the heart center, you have to stay there, and the emotional content will stay out of it. You'll still be and have emotions and feelings, but you won't drag up all of the conditions, innuendos, and all of the belief systems that you have about it. One of the things that I've noticed here in a lot of twin flame groups, which I don't participate in much anymore, is when you go in there and you read the content of a lot of the people, it's all emotion. It's all about emotion. You find very few people who are actually coming, and there can be 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people in some of these groups. And you might find a handful, if you're lucky, that are actually put content in that don't get emotionally involved with the content because they can telepathically come up with the content that they need from source or higher self, whatever you want to call it, and present it without that energetic emotional attachment to it. So they can use their telepathic ability that way also. And this is what goes on. So when you do this and you make the connection with your other, The idea here is this: it will keep you out of that expectation and agenda mindset that many people want to do. I listen to a lot of people and they'll tell me, well, really, Mel, I don't give a crap about all of what you're saying, all right? All I want to do is be with him. And I get it, all right? I get it. And that's simply the old relationship mindset. And there's nothing wrong with it if you can accept the fact that if that's all you want, and you don't believe in evolution, and you don't believe in spiritual awakening, you don't believe in change, and you don't believe that the spiritual community is waking up, and if you don't believe that kundalini is activated in you, and you don't believe it's going to force changes if necessary in you, then that's all you're ever going to get. And I'm good with that. But on the other hand, it is my responsibility, because I got picked for the job, to inform people who are at certain stages, to give the information that's pertinent to the development that's unfolding within them now. And the telepathy templating during separation is a very important phase, because in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, we're having too many of these connections that are faltering and falling apart because there's too much misinformation being given and not enough understanding of the process, and many people are struggling. So that's why I'm taking the time to do this, because somebody brought it up that I might want to consider doing this. So I'll repeat a little bit here just so that you get it, all right? The other thing that I want to mention here is this: is when you're going to attempt to do this, remember, if you don't do it right, there is a safety mechanism built into the heart center chakra that won't allow you to make that telepathic connection with the other once you become aware of the potential power and authority that telepathy has and is going to have down the road. Telepathic connection down the road will mean that what an individual is able to do is take their consciousness and project it. This means there will be people down the road who will attempt to abuse this by using telepathic communication to influence people, or they will attempt to. And there's a safety mechanism built in that's not going to allow this to happen. What will happen is the people who attempt to do this by influencing others for their own gain or manipulation or control will simply burn out part of the nervous system, and the mental body in itself will collapse, so they won't have the ability to be able to do that. All right. So just to kind of review for a moment before I end this video, because I want to make it a little shorter, is again, when you're doing this, you have to also be in the right mindset. That means if you're angry, upset, or having a bad day, do not attempt to do it. If you're going to do it initially in the beginning, I recommend you do it in a meditative state. Go back to when the ability first awakened within yourself and you knew you were using your telepathy and connecting with another person or person. Review the mechanism or the signal experiences that happened to you. Then take those initiation experiences and formulate an idea or a picture of how you can reuse it in the heart center chakra to make a connection with your other by whatever label, and then leaving out agenda and expectations and realizing that there's much more than you that's being influenced here. You're templating your particular soul group, your bloodline, your family, your relatives, whatever. So you're not doing it just for you. The biggest part of this whole thing is this, is if you can get to the point, the magic pill here, if there is one, in this video, and in the telepathic connection with your other, is to remember This connection is not just about you and him. That's the part that's important. There are many others who are involved here on both sides, many, many people. So take the responsibility of looking at it in that context. And you might say, well, I don't want the responsibility. Well, that's your conscious self from a 3D perspective, physical reality, making that statement. If you have made that connection with someone else, and it's a high vibrational twin flame soulmate, divine connection, etc., whatever, it's because you're ready for the experience, and it's that time in your soul development for the experience, so you have it. It's that simple. And a great many of you, whether you are aware of it or not, when you came back in this particular point in timeline, was for exactly this purpose, to experience this and be part of the package of a very exciting, challenging, and also a very crisis time in the evolution of humanity and us as a species before we move into the stars and other planetary bodies. Very exciting, isn't it? So, the other point that I want to make in this particular video is this. One of the things that I've noticed lately is more and more every day, technology keeps producing more toys, more complicated things, more entertainment, more technology. I'm going to say something here that may seem a little different. Technology will never go faster than the evolutionary process can. And telepathy, in the next little while, especially during this phase of separation, is one of the best times and one of the best opportunities for you to grow and evolve and to actually do something that's of benefit, even if it looks like it's not going to happen between you and this person. The telepathic attempt that you make to retemplate that other person with the positive creative energy and consciousness that's necessary for them to choose to receive it or reject it is entirely up to them. So just before I leave, let me give you another little piece here. When you do this template and you send that as an energetic, nonverbal communication, understand that the other person is not obligated in any way, shape, or form to receive it. They don't have to. All you're doing is presenting them with the energy of opportunity gained through your own experience so that they can achieve something if they so choose. If they reject it, that is their choice. If they accept it, all it will do is it will just give them the information from a source or a place that they won't be able to recognize in all probability as being you. When they actually feel it, sense it, or become aware of it, they will have at that time a short timeline to make a decision as to what they're going to do. If they reject it, what will happen is that same energy with the offer or the information will be projected through all of that person's family, bloodline, or tree. So every set, okay, I want to just throw this into the matrix here. Every set of twin flame soulmates, divine partnerships, divine connections, twin rays, twin souls, whatever label you want to attach to it, who come together are now at the point where everyone at this point is doing something positive, creative to a whole lot of other people, even if it didn't work for them in the initial connection that they had, right? Oh, and one other thing that I'd like to mention here also is we still have, if you can believe this, a core group here in the spiritual community who are going to hang on to that old belief system of you can only have one vibrational twin match forever and ever, and they're going to hang on to it with wailing and gnashing of teeth. They're going to defend it. They're going to promote it. And once you understand the process of evolution and vibration and dimensions of consciousness and realities and differences, you understand that the twin flame connection is not limited to just one vibrational match, in spite of all of the defending and the belief systems that are going to go through. You're going to hear lots more of it coming up in the next little while from some people. So give this a try and practice it. But like I said, you might want to go back and listen to a couple of parts of the video again, just so you kind of get a handle on it, because this is the way to approach it in that sense. And if you need further information, I can do an additional video on it there later on down the road. Okay? All right. Everybody have a great day. Have fun. Oh, and if you heard the hum in the back, that's the air conditioner was going on there because I need to stay cool. Because I'm a cool guy, right? So I need to stay cool. So that's what the humming was about. I do apologize for that if it bothered anybody. Take care.